G'day, welcome to Pay It Forward. Today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make this really sweet little Hello Kitty style cushion cover. If you're a Hello Kitty fan, and I know that a lot of you are, simply click on the link in the description below. You'll be able to print out your free PDF pattern templates and we can get started. So we'll start today with the things we need for our Hello Kitty cushion. You're going to need to cut one cushion front piece, which is 40 centimetres by 40 centimetres square. A nice print would be lovely. You can use a floral, you can use a stripe, anything you've got. Check would be fantastic as long as you keep within those sort of Hello Kitty colours. You'll need two back pieces for your envelope back, and they measure 28 centimetres by 40 centimetres. You'll then need your Hello Kitty face pieces, and I'm using fleece here today, so a little piece of fine, it's a fairly fine polar fleece. You could use, you could replace that with fabric or felt, so long as you stay with just that off-white colour. Two little eyes, and these all have fusible webbing applied. So yellow for the nose and black for the eyes. You'll also need to cut her little bow, and we're actually going to attach her bow separately so that we get kind of a 3D sort of effect there. So I actually cut this one out of what I call double felt. I've actually tripled it up this time, and that is felt, pieces of felt joined together by fusible webbing. So I tend to join my pieces of felt together with the iron, and then I cut my pattern piece out of that solid piece. It just gives us a nice 3D sort of shape that we can work with and sew with, but it's not too difficult to sew. And then you'll need a nice big button for the center, just something that'll show up, and that's how we'll be sewing that one actually onto the cushion. So to get started, you'll need to remove your backing paper from your face piece, and we're going to settle that pretty much in the center of the cushion front. So the measurement from the bottom edge of your cushion front to the lower edge of the kitty's face is 12 centimetres. So 12 centimetres this way, and then centre your kitty face this way, so the same distance either side. Fuse that on with a hot iron and a protective cloth. There you can see my fleece is nicely fused into place there, and because it's pressed it's nice and flat. When you're using fleece in any kind of applique, you find that fleece tends to have a fluffier side and a smoother side. I always have the fluffier side fused to the fabric, then our surface is just that, it's still nice and, you know, woolly if you like, but it's just a bit easier to applique with. So if we're going to follow Hello Kitty's look, we're going to follow it correctly. So we're going to outline her entire head in a machine close zigzag stitch, like an applique, machine applique, and we're going to do that in black. So make sure that it's nice and neat and even, and keep your stitches really quite close together. I'll probably set my machine on my widest zigzag and probably my stitch length to number 1, thereabouts. See how you go, do a trial first, and we just want a nice clear line all around the outside there. Also, I'm working with what is an upholstery fabric here today, so it's actually quite heavy. If you're working with a lighter cotton, I would suggest that you interface that cushion front first. It'll just make it easier for you sewing that one on. I now have my little face appliqued on. Now that stitch that I've done around the outside in black, it's actually almost a buttonhole width. So to set that on your machine, so it's nice and close and it looks like a fairly solid line. Next step is to fuse your little eyepieces and your nose on. It's very important they get put on in the right position so that we get that proper Hello Kitty look. So the distance between the lowest edge of the chin to the base of the nose piece there is 4 centimetres exactly, and from the base to the start of the lower edge of each eye is 5 centimetres, and the measurement from the side of this eye to the side of the face is 4 centimetres. So 4 centimetres here, 4 centimetres here and 5 centimetres here. So you can fuse those into place like I have there, and then it's just a matter of sewing a blanket applique stitch around each eye and the nose. Stay with the black because that gives us that same very animated outline look. If you don't know how to do a buttonhole or a blanket applique stitch, have a look on my other channel, Lisa Pay, how to sew the blanket applique or buttonhole stitch, and that will show you really clearly up close, just nice neat little stitches. I'm actually using, I want it to really show up, so I'm using 3 strands of just embroidery cotton. So I'm going to work that stitch around all of those 3. There you can see I've sewn that little blanket applique stitch around the eyes and the nose. You can see how that black outline works. It really gives it that good animated look. Now next we're going to draw in our whiskers. You can see that they start, there's 3 little whiskers on either side, and you can see that they start just on just below the top of the eye there. The first one sits, and they're not very long, and you just can draw them on using anything. They're very simple and they're quite random, so it's just a matter of using something. I've just used this old plate to get that nice curve there, and I've just drawn them on. Just try and remember that that middle whisker on each side is always shorter than the other 2. We're just doing that for accuracy, and they're all around about 5 centimetres, the longer ones, and just follow that nice curved line. So 3 on each side. Try and match them up as best you can, and then we're going to sew them with the same stitch on the machine as we did before to outline. I generally start on the machine here and I work that stitch, and then I backtrack and go back over it. So what we'll get is a really clear, quite a heavy black embroidery line. So there, our whiskers are all nicely stitched in, and that is our cushion front basically done. So we can set her aside, and now we're going to work on her little bow. Now you've got your bow piece cut out of your double, or what I've got here, triple felt here, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to use a thread which is a few shades dark. It depends on what colour you're making your bow, but generally I find that black around the outline of the bow is just a little bit too heavy, but it does need to still take on that animated look, so you do need a darker shade than your actual bow colour. So you can see there I'm going for just a really deep red over the hot pink, and I'm going to sew just a blanket stitch around the entire outside of that little shape there. If you don't know how to do a blanket stitch, just have a look. I've done a video called How to Sew the Blanket Stitch with Lisa Pay. It's on my other channel. Check that out, and that will give you really detailed instructions on how to do that. I'm going to be using just 2 strands of embroidery thread to do that. So I'm going to work that stitch all around the outside of the bow. So there is my little bow, and I've blanket stitched all around the outside there, you can see, and now I've just sewn that finished bow into place using my button, and I've used an extra strong thread that matches and sewn all the way through all the layers. Make sure that's on really nice and firm, and you can see the positioning there just extends a little over the side of the face here and up over that ear there, so you can sew that one on, and she's adorable. So we'll just move that one out the way and we'll get started on our cushion backs. Now you can see each of your cushion back pieces, we need to make a hem along one of each of their sides, so it's just a matter of pressing. You can see there I've just pressed just a centimetre under and then pressed it a centimetre under again, and then we're just going to sew that little hem nice and close to the edge there. So just do that on one side of each of those back pieces. So now we've sewn those 2 hems, we can assemble our cushion. So we have our cushion front, and it's just right sides together. So you place your first back flap on, just line up your edges, and then your second one also. And it's just a matter of pinning all those corners together So pin all the way around your square. Remember that when you're sewing your seam, my seam allowance is about 1 centimetre. So sew all the way around, and when you come to these where the envelope flaps begin, make sure that you go back and forth on your machine so that you make those really strong, so when we pop our cushion insert in, we're not stressing that area too much. So just a 1 centimetre seam all around the outside. So now I have sewn that seam all the way around, and I've also gone ahead and I've just clipped the corners, snipped the corners off of each corner, and I have done, because my fabric does tend to be a fairly open weave, I've just sewn a zigzag stitch all the way around that outside seam. I've trimmed the seam a bit also. If you have an overlocker or a serger, of course you could use that. So now all we need to do is turn it through. The most fun part. And I will use a knitting needle just to get in there and push those corners right out, and now we can, because we've clipped those corners, we'll be able to get a nice clean point there. So just push all your corners out, press those seams out, and then we'll pop in our insert. And there she is, all done. She's completely adorable. So I've put a size 14 insert in that one, but I think she could take a 15. That's your nice, just your nice little envelope back. Do check your insert sizes though, because they could be a little different in your part of the world. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I know a little girl who's going to love that one. Well, I hope you've enjoyed making this little cushion cover with me today. If you have, you could give this video a thumbs up for me. That would be beaut. Remember to subscribe so you don't miss any of my upcoming projects. Remember to comment and let me know if you've got a favourite character, Disney or otherwise, that you'd like represented, and I'll see what I can do, see if I can include it in an upcoming tutorial. So remember to pay it forward, everybody, because everybody can, and until I see you next time, it's hooroo from me.